In the heart of a prosperous kingdom in Africa, there lived a wise and just king whose rule brought peace and prosperity to his people. At the center of his court was his beloved daughter, Princess Zahara, known for her kindness and compassion. One fateful day, news spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom that the king's cherished magic bowl, a sacred artifact said to hold mystical powers, had been stolen from the palace vault. The entire kingdom was thrown into turmoil, and the king declared that whoever returned the bowl would be richly rewarded, but whoever was found guilty of the theft would face the severest of punishments. Days turned into weeks, and the kingdom was consumed by suspicion and fear. Eventually, a man named Malik was apprehended and accused of stealing the magic bowl. Despite his protestations of innocence, the evidence against him seemed damning, and the court sentenced him to face the punishment of death by the hands of the royal executioner. Princess Zahara, however, could not bear the thought of an innocent man losing his life. She remembered Malik as a kind-hearted man who had always been helpful to the villagers. Determined to uncover the truth and save Malik from his unjust fate, Zahara embarked on a quest to find evidence that would prove his innocence. Disguised as a commoner, Zahara journeyed to the distant corners of the kingdom, seeking out witnesses and clues that would shed light on the true culprit behind the theft of the magic bowl. Along the way, she encountered villagers who shared tales of Malik's generosity and integrity, further fueling her determination to seek justice. Finally, after days of relentless pursuit, Zahara stumbled upon a hidden cave deep within the forest. Inside, she discovered the stolen magic bowl, tucked away behind a veil of cobwebs. As she examined the bowl, Zahara noticed faint traces of magic lingering around it, confirming her suspicions that the true thief must have left behind a magical residue. Armed with this newfound evidence, Zahara rushed back to the kingdom and presented her findings to the king and his court. With tears in her eyes, she pleaded for Malik's innocence to be recognized and for him to be spared from his impending execution. Impressed by his daughter's unwavering courage and determination, the king ordered a new trial to be held, with Zahara as the chief witness. Through her compelling testimony and the evidence she had uncovered, Malik was acquitted of all charges, and the true thief, a jealous courtier who had coveted the magic bowl's powers, was exposed and brought to justice. In the aftermath of the trial, the kingdom rejoiced at the restoration of justice, and Malik was hailed as a hero for his steadfastness in the face of adversity. Princess Zahara, her compassion and bravery shining brightly, was celebrated as the true heroine of the kingdom. As the kingdom celebrated Malik's acquittal and the restoration of justice, Princess Zahara couldn't shake off a lingering feeling of unease. Despite the overwhelming evidence that had exonerated Malik, something about his demeanor during the trial nagged at her intuition. Days passed, and Malik's gratitude towards Zahara seemed to grow with each passing moment. He showered her with compliments and expressions of admiration, his charm and charisma captivating the princess's heart. Zahara found herself drawn to Malik's seemingly genuine affection. But genuine, it was not. Unbeknownst to Zahara, Malik's intentions were far from pure. Malik fully intended to manipulate Zahara's compassion and kindness to win her affections. He saw marrying the princess as his ticket to power and influence. As their courtship blossomed, Malik's true nature began to reveal itself in subtle ways. He would speak ill of others behind their backs, sow seeds of doubt and discord among the royal court, and gradually isolate Zahara from her friends and advisors. Despite the warnings from her closest confidants, Zahara remained blinded by love, unable to see through Malik's facade. One night, as Zahara wandered through the palace gardens lost in thought, she stumbled upon a hidden alcove where Malik was meeting with a mysterious cloaked figure. Concealed in the shadows, Zahara tried hard to overhear their conversation, but their whispers her ear could not catch. Later, when she tried to inquire from Malik what that conversation was about, he simply brushed her off, confusing her with sweet words and confusing smiles. Princess Zahara found herself unable to resist the allure of Malik's affectionate gestures and seemingly genuine kindness. Day by day, her love for him deepened. Her friends kept on telling her that there was something amiss about Malik, but Zahara simply ignored them. After all, Malik was known to be a good man. Hadn't he been found innocent of stealing the king's magic bow? Malik, seizing upon Zahara's growing affection, redoubled his efforts to win her heart. He lavished her with gifts, whispered sweet words of love into her ear, and pledged to protect her with his life. His charm was as potent as ever, and Zahara found herself swept away by his devotion. As their courtship continued, Zahara's thoughts turned towards the future, and she began to envision a life of happiness and fulfillment by Malik's side. Ignoring the warnings of her inner voice and the concerns of her closest advisors, she dared to dream of a fairy tale wedding, where she and Malik would exchange vows of eternal love and devotion. With her heart set on this newfound vision of happiness, Zahara approached her father, the king, to seek his blessings for her union with Malik. Her father had reservations, asking Zahara,
"My daughter Zahara, do not be this impulsive. Our elders used to say, 'He who is always in a hurry to get things done never gets it done right.' And our ancient ancestors had a saying that said, 'Haste and hurry can only bear children with many regrets.' Have you thought this through? Marriage is not something to rush into, especially with someone you've only known for a few months. My daughter, Zahara. This is not like you."
But as far as Zahara was concerned, her father was an old man who had long forgotten the fire of love. Despite his lingering doubts about how fast the wedding had been planned, the king could not deny his daughter's happiness. Reluctantly, he gave his consent, hoping against hope that his beloved Zahara had not been blinded by love. Overjoyed by her father's approval, Zahara threw herself into the wedding preparations with renewed vigor. She selected the finest silks and jewels for her bridal attire, meticulously planned every detail of the ceremony, and invited guests from far and wide to witness the union of two souls destined to be together. As the day of the wedding dawned, the kingdom buzzed with anticipation and excitement. On the day of the wedding, Zahara was excited. She woke up feeling like favor had decided to shine her light and her alone in the entire universe. She began to put on her fine clothes and jewelry, her friends as excited as she was, despite their misgivings. Then she realized that her princess crown was missing. No one had seen Zahara's crown. She decided to go look for it in the hidden alcove in the palace gardens, where she and Malik had been telling each other sweet nothings the previous night. As she searched frantically for her missing crown in the compartment, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and anticipation, she froze upon hearing Malik's voice drifting through the air. Unable to believe what she was hearing, she pressed herself against the wall, straining to catch every word of the conversation unfolding before her. Malik stood with his uncle, a sinister grin spreading across his face as he spoke of his nefarious plans, stating that it all began with him stealing the king's magic bowl and framing an innocent man who worked in the king's court. He continued,
"I can't believe it, uncle. After all these years of planning, our moment has finally arrived. Today, I will marry the king's daughter, and with her by my side, I will have everything I've ever desired. Wealth, status, power. All of it. And let me tell you, uncle, she has no clue, as in, she is clueless. She has convinced herself, or is it that I have convinced her? She thinks that I have fallen in love with her. Fine, she is a kind lady. And pretty too. But what has love gotten me over the years? Uncle, you taught me well. I would never have achieved such greatness by myself. I will be respected. When I walk on the streets, people will recognize me and bow down to me as prince."
His uncle's voice, low and conspiratorial, responded, "And once you have married her, what then? Will you truly be satisfied with just being a prince consort? Or do you have grander ambitions?"
"Oh, I have no intention of remaining a mere prince. With Zahara as my wife, I will have the king's ear, and with his trust, I will have the power to shape the kingdom to my will. And when the time is right, when the kingdom is ripe for the taking, I will strike. The king will fall, and I will ascend the throne as the true ruler of this land."
Zahara's breath caught in her throat as she listened to Malik's words, her hands trembling with a mixture of anger and betrayal. How could he plot against her father, against their kingdom, all for the sake of his own ambition? The man she had loved, the man she had planned to spend her life with, was nothing more than a deceiver, a traitor plotting against her father and their kingdom. Surely, what her father had said was spot on. Every word that fell from Malik's lips was like a dagger to Zahara's heart, each syllable slicing through the illusion of happiness she had clung to so desperately. Tears stung her eyes as she struggled to comprehend the magnitude of Malik's treachery. How could she have been so blind? How could she have allowed herself to be fooled by his honeyed words and false promises? With a trembling hand, Zahara wiped away her tears and took a step forward, her resolve hardening with each passing moment. She knew what she had to do. She had to expose Malik's villainy before it was too late, before he could carry out his wicked plans and bring harm to her father and their kingdom. Summoning all her courage, Zahara stepped out from the shadows, her presence causing Malik and his uncle to stutter in surprise. Their faces paled as they realized they had been discovered, their nefarious scheme laid bare for all to see. "Malik," Zahara said, her voice steadied despite the turmoil raging inside her. "You deceived me. You used my love for you to further your own selfish ambitions. But your betrayal ends here." Malik's eyes widened in shock and disbelief, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly as he searched for words that would never come. He knew that Zahara had uncovered his true intentions, that his carefully constructed facade had crumbled to dust before her piercing gaze. With a gesture, Zahara called for the royal guards, her voice ringing out clear and commanding. "Take him away," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Lock him away where he can do no more harm." As Malik was dragged away, his protest falling on deaf ears, Zahara turned her gaze to the horizon, her heart heavy with sorrow but also with a newfound strength. She had faced betrayal and deceit, but she had emerged from the darkness stronger than ever before. And as she looked out upon the kingdom she loved, Zahara vowed to protect it with every fiber of her being, to stand as a beacon of truth and justice in a world threatened by darkness. Never again would she rush into anything, led by her heart only. Never again would she be naive. She realized that in this life, you cannot afford to be led only by your heart, for the heart can be deeply deceptive. She thanked the gods for her father and her friends who had tried to protect her. Surely, there are always guiding angels around us, and some of those angels are right next to us.